and welcome to the United Community Channel. My name is Jack. This is your latest Manchester United news, and we've got a lot to talk about this morning, as always, on the back of, I suppose, a good result, but a poor enough performance for Manchester United against Everton. And there's some news stories doing around, obviously not in relation to actual on-field performances. We've got some reports about players that are maybe Manchester United players but out on loan at the moment. We're going to talk about Mason Greenwood and Jadon Sancho specifically. We've got a little bit of an update as well on João Neves and Manchester United links with him as well. So we'll get into all of that. Please do smash a like on the video, hit subscribe if you're new to the channel, and as always, get your comments into the comment section and we'll go through them like we always do. But of course, we're going to start off, as you can see, the title of the YouTube video is Mason Greenwood, and you know, he's going to be gone in the summer by all accounts. Now, this is coming out from a report, not a report, from Fabrizio Romano. He was speaking on YouTube last night, saying Mason Greenwood is expected to leave Manchester United on a permanent transfer in the summer. Now, look, we do know that United have I suppose, got some interest from other clubs in relation to Mason Greenwood. There's been talks of Atletico Madrid, there's been talks of Barcelona even, and Getafe at the club he's currently at as well. I think they'd obviously like to keep him on a permanent transfer. I think he would be probably too good to actually stay with them. But look, I mean, this is something that is going to be news between now and, you know, the summer, and probably into the summer as well, because look, we all know the situation with Mason Greenwood, and I think it's probably the right decision. I have to say, I've been pretty steadfast on this, you know, since the stories broke about him and so on and so forth. I think it's best for all parties if Mason Greenwood moves on. I'm not questioning his ability. I think it's a terrible shame that a player of his ability and standards is going to leave Manchester United. And, you know, given the lack of maybe quality we've got in the front line at the moment and scoring goals, he would, you know, if all of this didn't happen, he would be our main man. He really, really would. And it's a terrible, terrible shame. But I think it's the right decision, to be quite honest with you. Whether Mason Greenwood even wants to come back himself, even if Manchester United wanted him back, we heard what Jim Ratcliffe was saying when he was asked about the situation when he first took over. He said, you know, we'll take everything into consideration and we'll make up our own mind, you know, decide ourselves, make our own decision. Obviously, the decision that Mason Greenwood was to be sent out on loan was done, you know, by a previous regime at United. So Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos will absolutely make up their own mind on it. But we know how reliable Fabrizio Romano is and can be when it comes to these kind of stories. But like I said, I mean, would Mason Greenwood even want to come back to Manchester United? Again, that's a debate that needs to be had as well, because, I mean, the scrutiny that would surround him when he returns to England from the media, from opposition fans, from a large portion of the Manchester United fan base as well, I think it would be very difficult for him to come back and play for Manchester United, even if United wanted him back. So yeah, I think maybe the best thing for him is to actually move on and maybe go and play on the continent, play in Spain, play in Italy, play in, you know, wherever he ends up playing. I would be very surprised if he plays in England again, especially anywhere in his peak. You know, he might come and maybe play in the latter stages of his career back in England. It's such a terrible shame. Like when we see the problems we've had with that right-hand side, that right wing spot. I mean, he would fit into it so perfectly for Manchester United at the moment. But again, I go back to what I've said. We all know what happened. We all heard the audio and saw pictures and so on and so forth. And I've been, you know, pretty steadfast on this. And I will say it again. I think morals are more important than goals in the game of football, especially when it comes to something like this. I go back to, you know, the standards that Manchester United should have and have had in the past, you know, have led the way in terms of all aspects of the game, both on and off the field. And I think this is a big, big decision. And I think it's one that we need to make to, you know, set an example, you know, not just for other clubs, but for you know, for young fans in general. You know, again, I'm not getting into the nitty gritty of it and going in depth too much about Mason Greenwood, but yeah, I mean, I've got a daughter, I've got a wife, I've got a mother, and I wouldn't like any, that happening to any of them. So I think, and I'm sure everybody else everybody's got a mother, if you've got a sister, if you've got a wife, a girlfriend, whatever it may be, you wouldn't want things like that happening to them. So yeah, I'm pretty steadfast on this. Again, I would have loved nothing more than Mason Greenwood to have a long and illustrious career at Manchester United, but I don't think it's going to happen. I just don't think it's going to happen, and I don't think it should happen. I don't think it should happen. Let's see. Danny says Mason Greenwood doesn't want to come back because he doesn't feel like he was given the support by United. Hopefully we can get top money for him. Well, I disagree a little bit in that in terms of, support. I mean, United have loaned him out, and, there's only so much support you can give to somebody under these circumstances. United and any club at the end of the day is, PR, personal relations, is a massive part of it. United have got a massive global fan base. You need to do the right thing. I think how they dealt with it maybe was wrong. The first of all saying that he was going to come back in, and then they quickly changed their mind when they heard the backlash of the fans and even staff within the club. But again, I mean, there's only one person to blame here for this, and it's Mason Greenwood. And I think, that's what we have to stick with. Darryl says, right decision, but hopefully we'll get a good price for him, not let him go for dirt money. Yeah, look, Mason Greenwood leaving Manchester United is not all negative. We're going to get a decent salary or a decent fee in for him. There's talks of 50 million, upwards of 50 million for him. And again, when you're taking that into consideration when it comes to a financial fair play standpoint, you're taking 50 million. Let's say it is let's say that's going to be let's say it is going to be 50 million that he goes for. Then that's going to be pure profit because you're getting an academy player out. You don't spend any money on him in terms of a transfer fee coming in. And that will allow us to spend an awful lot more, you would expect, in the summer transfer window. It's nearly double bubble, you would say, because you haven't spent anything on him in terms of a transfer fee. You're getting a big transfer fee for him leaving, and then you can go and reinvest that. And I think if Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos are looking at Mason Greenwood, and they are looking at the Manchester United squad as a whole and saying we need a complete overhaul in this squad, then I think getting 50 million in for an academy player, they're going to go, that will really help us to maybe speed up the process of redeveloping this squad. And I think that's probably what's going to happen. I think that's probably one of the main reasons why Mason Greenwood will be moved on in the summer. Well, not the main reason, but certainly up there with one of the main reasons why. And yeah, I mean, look, I think it'll be Mason Greenwood out in the summer, I have to say. Danny says Mason Greenwood has made it clear he doesn't want to return, which is best for everyone. So moving it on a little bit, guys, obviously we'll move it on from Mason Greenwood, but another player that is out on loan from Manchester United is this guy, and it's Jadon Sancho. Obviously on loan with Borussia Dortmund at the moment. Pretty public falling out with Erik ten Hag, and there has been reports suggesting that, well, I think it's quite clear, but we'll put it up on screen here. Jadon Sancho definitely does not want to return to Manchester United under Erik ten Hag. He blames ten Hag for the downturn in his career. Now, I think if this is to be believed, and if this is true that Jadon Sancho blames Erik ten Hag for the downturn in his career, then I think it again shows a complete lack of self-awareness more than anything else, because Jadon Sancho has got nobody else to blame other than himself for his downturn. Erik ten Hag was completely supportive of him, gave him 3 months away over in Holland to get his head right, get back on top, brought him back, and we've seen the clips when he was coming on as a substitute when he first came back, and he was smiling with Ten Hag on the sideline. Ten Hag didn't do anything wrong when he was asked about a question about Jadon Sancho. Yeah, he didn't train well enough, that's why he's not in the squad. And Sancho decides to go public with a big, fuck off rant, and it's just nonsense. I hope to God we move him on in the summer. He annoys me so much. His lack of professionalism, again, it seems like just a young, spoiled kid that just blames everybody else for things that go wrong in his career. We know there's been reports with every club he's been with about his unprofessionalism, his timekeeping, staying up late before games, so on and so forth. And for him to come out and maybe blame Erik ten Hag like this, I think is a complete and utter nonsense. The report does also say that Borussia Dortmund are pursuing a secret Jadon Sancho plan. They want to either loan him for another season or exchange him in a swap deal. Again, I mean, I'm not a big fan of either of these outcomes, I have to say. Loaning him for another year just means he's going to be a year older. Is he going to really increase his value in the Bundesliga? That remains to be seen. I think the chances are more likely that he maybe stagnates a little bit more there. He's done it, he's been unprofessional at every club he's been with. I think it would be a gamble to loan him for another year. And in terms of a swap deal, I mean, you're narrowing your range of who you want to get in relation to a swap deal then. Is there anyone at Borussia Dortmund that Manchester United actually want or actually need? And I think that's the dilemma here. If you were to get maybe 40 to 50 million for Jadon Sancho, and I think that's probably what we would be looking at, we're going to take a massive loss on him, I think. Then, you're getting 40 to 50 million in. You can reinvest that how you please in terms of redeveloping the squad. If you're looking at a swap deal, again, you're narrowing your range down on who you can buy to one club and one squad, and who in the squad can we get, and is there anyone actually, with the mentality or, the quality or to play for Manchester United that fits in to what we actually want and what we need. So I would much prefer Jadon Sancho just be sold, outright sell, get him off the books. If he plays in for Dortmund for another season on loan, we're probably going to be still paying the majority of his wages, which I think we're doing at the moment as well, which is something I'm not a big fan of, because all of that comes into play as well when you're talking about FFP. And we know FFP is a big contributing factor now to clubs limiting their spend. So if we're giving Jadon Sancho 300 grand a week, or whatever he's on, I think he's on 350 a week, and we're paying the majority of that while he's in Dortmund, it's not benefiting us in any way, shape or form. So I say in the summer, sell him, move him on, get as much money as you can in the door, because we're talking about, Jadon Sancho being sold in the summer will go a long way towards actually redeveloping our squad. We're talking about this squad being redeveloped and the urgency that we need to do it. We need to get a lot of players off the books. We need to get a lot of players in that are good enough, to try and get back to top 4 first, let alone challenge for titles. So Jadon Sancho going on loan or a potential swap deal with a player from Borussia Dortmund is not something I'm a big fan of. Get him off the books. His wages and the fee you get for him then will go an awful lot towards a positive FFP and being able to reinvest that into the squad. And let's just get moving. Let's cut these dead weight, away from the club, move them on, and let's just get moving forward and get players in that actually want to play for Manchester United. He's holding out to try and get back to Manchester United under no questions, regardless of whether, if Erik ten Hag gets a sack, he's probably going to want to come back to United. I don't want him anywhere near the club. And I think the majority of Man United fans are, along the same lines as that as well. So sell him, move him on, reinvest it into the squad, let's just move on. Let's see what we've got here. Danny says Sancho made the right decision leaving. It was best for everyone. He was going so many chances to apologise, but he didn't. So that should be him gone. He's a bad egg. We don't need players like him. Daryl says playing FIFA till all hours and not showing any respect would have more to do with it. Yep, 100%. Jock is in. Good to see you, pal. Thanks for joining. Sean says Ten Hag repeatedly ruined. Sean, you're talking through your absolute hole. Ten Hag repeatedly ruined multiple players' careers and performance. Sancho is Sean, you're an idiot. You're an absolute idiot if that's what you believe. There's no other way of putting it. You think Ten Hag ruined Sancho's career? You know what I mean? Sancho was doing fuck all before Ten Hag even got here. You're talking through your absolute hole. So you are. Jock says, Jadon is a disgrace to football, waste of talent, no desire. As for our team, would love top 4, but have no faith in senior players at our team to fight for top 4, no pride. Yeah, I wouldn't say no pride. I think there is pride there. I understand where you're coming from, Jock. It is easy to see, and it would be easy to say that. I think it's more the case of belief and quality and lack thereof, both of them things. You know what I mean? I could have all of the desire in the world and the pride to play for Manchester United, but I wouldn't win as a league because I'm not good enough. So, there has to be a balance there as well. But yeah, I understand exactly where you're coming from. Dara says, should never have bought him in the first place. And Reese says, in school at the moment, but might as well pop in. Good to see you, Reese. Don't get caught with your phone out in class. I don't want to be the reason why you get it taken off of you. Well, I don't know if you get your phones taken off you in school anymore. It's been 17 years since I was in school, so Jesus, that's fucking depressing. 17 years, Jesus Christ. Anyway, let's move it on, guys. Finally, before we finish up, I want to talk a little bit about this guy, João Neves. Now, reports are coming out over the last few days, or over the last few hours, about Manchester United making a potential move for him. Now, again, look, I suppose the source on this is not the strongest in the world, but the reason why I bring it up today is that over the last few weeks, we've seen multiple reports linking Manchester United with João Neves. Sir Jim Ratcliffe looks set to approve a record-breaking Manchester United offer for Benfica midfielder João Neves this summer. Neves has a 102 million release clause, and United see him as a priority target. Man City are also interested. Now, I want to kind of go backwards on that one. Man City being interested. If I was João Neves, I would say to myself, why would I go to Man City? Now, again, I'm not trying to put a dig into Man City here because they are the best team in the world at the moment, you would say. But if I was João Neves, why would I go and play second fiddle to Rodri? He's not going to get in ahead of Rodri. Second of all, if we're looking at João Neves coming to Manchester United, and I think it's been quite evident over the last few weeks and months, maybe for the majority of this season, that we are in desperate need of a CDM. And that's what he would offer. Casemiro, while I love him and he had a brilliant season last year, I think it's more likely that he's moved on this summer. I really do. I've said it before, I would like to see Casemiro maybe stay for one more season. If we were to go out and get a João Neves, you could rotate Casemiro on him for 12 months before you could move on someone like Casemiro. But I think unless Casemiro goes on an unbelievable run of games between now and the end of the season, puts in massive performances, I think he's moved on in the summer. And the reason for it is the big wages that he gets at Manchester United. I think that's probably why he's moved on. We've heard reports early on when Jim Ratcliffe was bidding for Manchester United that he was not a fan of the deal that Manchester United done for Casemiro. So, I mean, if you move Casemiro on to Saudi Arabia, and you would hope to get maybe 50 or 60 million for him, £102 million release clause for João Neves doesn't seem like an awful lot. If you're getting rid of Casemiro and getting 60 million in the door, and you have to pay 102 million for João Neves, I think it's a really, really good deal. 102 million on its own is probably too much for Manchester United, given the amount of players we need to turn over. But I think we can be very smart in the transfer window this summer. I think if we move on the right players and get some good money in for them, I think a player like João Neves for 102 million all of a sudden becomes a bit of a bargain if you're looking at net spend. 60 million for Casemiro, 102 million out then for João Neves. You're talking about 42 million in terms of net spend, and to bring in a player of his quality, I think is some good business. Again, I would like to see Casemiro stay, and it would be great for someone like João Neves to play alongside Casemiro and train with him week in, week out for 12 months. It could only benefit him. It really could. And you could use Casemiro then, where you don't have to play him week in, week out, maybe take a little bit of pressure off him. Whether he wants to do that for another 12 months, I don't know. But it all comes down to what Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos want to do. We are in desperate need of a CDM. Desperate need of a CDM. We were in desperate need of a CDM 2 seasons ago. And we needed one for about 3 or 4 years. And we got Casemiro. Now, Casemiro is after giving us one really good season where we didn't have to worry about that position. We're now looking at having to look at it again. And I said this when Casemiro was signed. We're going to be back in the same position we were in 3 years ago. in another season or two. That's what I said when Casemiro signed. I love Casemiro. I think he's absolutely a fantastic footballer, not having a great season. But he's the wrong side of 30. He's on the decline. He's on the downward slope of his career, and that's okay. It happens to everybody. This guy, João Neves, he is on the way up. You know what I mean? He is... Let me just do that. Look, he is, you know, on the way up in his career. So I think it's a very good deal if it can be done. But again, we're going to have an awful lot of competition for his signature because, like we said, Man City are interested in him. I'm sure you're going to have other clubs. Again, you know, regardless of whether it's João Neves or not, we need a CDM. We need to improve that area of the pitch in the summer, in my opinion. Let's see what people are saying. I don't know what we're going to do against Liverpool next week. We might have a few players back to give a small bit of hope. Danny says, I'd love João Neves at United. He's one for the future, but should we waste that sort of money on one player? Nobody knows how much money we have to spend in the summer. Casemiro will last us maybe a year more before we need to cash in on him, if not in the summer, I reckon. And Reese also says, especially with getting these people like Dan Ashworth in, going to be a massive help with signing people in the summer. And Darryl says, I think selling Casemiro is the right move for the right money at the moment. His legs aren't fit for the Premier League. His distribution of the ball versus Everton was awful. Yeah, it was. And again, like we've got to balance it up here as well. If you do keep him for 12 months, are you going to be able to get close to 50, 60 million for him next year? Probably not, because he's not going to play as many games as he has. So you do have to find the right balance. Is now the right time to sell him for the money? And that's what Ineos, Dan Ashworth, Dave Brailsford, Omar Barada, all these kind of guys are going to be, you know, they're going to be doing the equations going, yeah, I think now is the time. I think Casemiro probably will be moved on in the summer. And if he is, then I want to go for someone like him. You know what I mean? Because he is the real deal, in my opinion. But anyway, guys, let me know what you think about all the comments or all of these topics in the comment section below. Do smash a like on the video if you haven't already done so. It helps out the channel like you wouldn't believe. Hit subscribe if you're new to the channel as well. Again, look, morning news show, nice and quick, 20 minutes. I'll be back tonight from 8 o'clock. We'll go in depth with all of these things as well. There's been some news in the past maybe half an hour or so about Manchester United been heavily linked with a centre-back from Everton as well, and a bit of steam being picked up on that. So we'll talk about that tonight from 8 o'clock. So make sure you're joining. If you're new to the channel and you have subscribed, turn on notifications as well. Just click the bell, hit all, and anytime we go live or we've got a new piece of content up, you will be the first to see it and you get notified. So yeah, look, smash a like on the video, hit subscribe if you're new. I'll see you at 8 o'clock tonight, please God. Have a good day. I'll see you on the next one.